gentlemen, a huge warm welcome to our meeting tonight. I think everyone in the room is aware of where water and drinks are. Please feel free to get it during the meeting and make sure you're hydrated. We'll start with the evacuation procedure. There's no one in the room that I see that hasn't heard that before. It is printed on the agenda, so I shan't read it out on this occasion. Apologies for absence we have received, and Neil Phillips' apologies is on the line. Declarations of interest in addition to the ones printed on the agenda? No? Okay. Item 4 then is the minutes of the previous meeting. Are members happy that I sign these as an accurate record?
Yep. Seconded.
Public consultation. I've received notice that the following people wish to speak. On agenda item 6, I've got Councillor Gutteridge, Wilson, Golby and Kondaka. On item 7, Councillors Golby and Kondaka. And on item 11, Councillors Smith, Wilson, Golby and Kondaka. Are there any further speakers? Okay, thank you very much. We will take them in the order they're in because there is every right who wish to speak on. I'm going to come to Jill in regard to item 6, the introduction of arrangements for the provision of refuse and recycling bins for new developments. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you. With the adoption of the Borough Plan, officers anticipate an increase in the number of new houses being given planning permission. These houses require the provision of breeder bins for refuse collection. Provision of these bins will be an added pressure on the council's finances. There is provision in legislation for councils to charge developers the full cost of providing the bins, or alternatively to provide them at their own cost to an agreed specification. Many other authorities in the area across the county already charge developers for this, and it is recommended that we do the same. Planning officers will inform developers of this either at pre-application stage, if there is one, or at the earliest opportunity when an application is received. As well as this, the developers are required to design bin collection areas and accesses to enable the proper development of the site in connection with refuse collection. A technical note has been prepared for developers by refuse collection, and it is recommended that this be adopted and uploaded to the council's website for use by developers, and the planning office will make developers aware of its existence either at pre-application stage or at the earliest opportunity. And I can also add that the other authorities who charge are Coventry, Warwick District, Solihull, Rugby, and they'll charge developers for their use. And if I can move the recommendations on page 15 at 2, 2.1 and 2.2.
Thank you very much, Jill. We do have public speakers. The first one, Councillor Gutteridge.
Okay.
Thank you. Members of the Cabinet, I would like to talk about the introduction of the arrangements for the provision of refuge and recycling bins for new developments. I'm broadly in favour of this report, but was hoping there would be a bit more in the report, a bit more history of the type of bin we've provided over the years and the cost, if any. I've spoken to the head of waste and transport and believe we have spent 60,000 on black and recycling bins and some replacement green bins over the last 10 months. I see that in the next planning meeting there is an application for 575 houses, so I believe they will require one black bin, one recycling bin with a caddy, so the total cost per unit property would be £55.52. Times that by 575 houses, the total cost for the developer would be £31,924. That's without the green bin at £40. I do hope this will not be detrimental to implementing the key principles in the borough plan, i.e. the 106 money and all the other little bits that the developer has to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Guthrie. Any points of clarification? Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair and members of the Cabinet. Broadly in line with what Councillor Guthrie said, on paper this does seem to be a rather attractive proposal. There are some concerns that I do have, and I hope that either Cabinet members can take this forward or perhaps even give an answer if they can. But this report doesn't actually say what savings we're expecting to receive in the ongoing revenue budget. Presumably, if it's going to be starting ASAP and with developments coming forward within this financial year, then there should be, hopefully, a revenue saving in there. If there is, it would be nice to have seen it in the report. It does say that other councils are doing this. It could also provided more information for members if there were, say, for example, some case studies about how this has worked in other local authorities and what the impacts have been, etc. Because one of the issues that I am concerned about, perhaps it's sad only because I'm on the planning committee, but is the impact on section 106s. Because if we are expecting developers to pay for the bins, then they will have to factor that in on their viability assessments, and that may mean that other requirements or demands on section 106s, when you throw that into the whole viability pot, will mean that other areas of section 106 monies could be refused or taken out of the negotiations by this council. For example, the 621 at the end of Golf Drive, in my patch, if they are assuming 2 bins at £50.52, although if there's a caddy it's £5, I forgot to do that, that's £31,372. Now, I want to be, as a local ward councillor who is going to be forced to take these developments, and my residents being forced to take these developments, I want to know that the 106s, which should be being subscribed to by developers, and what we have been promised by this council in terms of infrastructure upgrades and delivery, particularly with the infrastructure delivery plan, although it was quite silent in respect to Whitestone because it was brought in at the last minute when it was consulted upon 18 months, 2 years ago. When a developer factors in that requirement for viability, is that going to mean, for example, that we lose a playing and open strategy pitch? Does it mean we aren't going to get a multi-use games area? Those sorts of things worry me as a ward councillor, and given the fact that we have a rather ambitious, some may say, and the inspector did say that it was at the outer reaches of some of the developments, the delivery, are we going to be making sure that those areas get what they need and deserve from taking those developments? And I think that is a legitimate concern to have as a ward councillor, and legitimate concern for residents to have who will be taking on the brunt, because section 106 is supposed to be there to offset the unacceptable impacts that a development will cause and mitigate against some of that. So that is a concern. If officers and members of the Cabinet can give me assurances, it sounds good, but I need reassuring on that front, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson, any further points of clarification? Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Goldby?
Thanks. And thanks for that. I'm pretty much broadly along the lines of what Councillor Wilson was saying, given that there's going to be development in my ward. It's what is going to be the impact of asking developers for more money up front. Will that impact on section 106 monies? It's kind of the law of unintended consequences. Have we got any of that bottomed out? Do we know which way we're going to go? Do we know if there are going to be any unintended consequences of asking developers to put up more cash up front? And on the flip side of that, are we going to have to put in supplementary planning policy documentation to cover these requests should they be validated? And will we be able to have any say on these planning policy documents. We'll be able to get some visibility if it needs to happen, because it does have an impact borough-wide, really, where everybody has got development. So I think most of what I was going to say has already been covered by the speakers before, but I do think that the report is a little bit light on some of the more detailed information and possible consequences of this. And I know that it's been said that it is done in other authorities. Can we have feedback and case studies of the other authorities to see if they've had anything that maybe we wouldn't see coming down the line? If, you know, we possibly don't know everything, but we may need to pick up something from someone who's had this experience previously and has introduced this charge, and see whether the developers have come back with anything that we might not necessarily have on our radar at the moment.
Comments? And our last speaker is Councillor Conway.
Thank you very much. Just a few points, but I think they're quite important. Firstly, we're having these supplementary documents across Warwickshire, so I don't know why each council's doing them in different orders. North Warwickshire's just doing their air quality one, so we've got a whole load of these coming through. It'd be nice actually if Warwickshire had the same set, so developers expected the same thing everywhere, and we actually had them all coming forward as soon as possible, because obviously we've brought this one forward for bins, we surely should have brought the one forward for air quality and other things. So all these supplementary things need to be done quickly and also to a common standard. Second point is garden waste. We talk about garden waste here, but obviously the best thing we can do to garden waste where there's space is to compost. And a lot of the larger gardens, we should actually be insisting developers provide compost bins, particularly a large lawn, some of the bigger places they're building. That would actually remove the need to actually truck so much waste in. So actually there's absolutely nothing about composting, which is just a no-brainer in terms of the environment. Big gardens, get them to install compost bins. On the converse of that, where we've got flats, I don't understand how the £40 per annum for some of the multi-occupancy places is going to work. And we've got all the bin charges here. I hope we've got some phrasing in to index them up for the RPI, and actually particularly for wheelie bins. They really depend on the price of plastic, so if the oil price shoots up, who knows what's happening. We could be charging £23 here for a bin, and with oil price variations it could shoot up to £35. So we need to be careful, because it's a very, very volatile area, the price of plastics. And then 3.3 is quite good. We've got these requirements for multi-occupancy properties, and it would be nice if we actually enforce the same standards on ourselves. I know Ryde Avenue and Cleaver Gardens have some appalling problems with bin storage, particularly at the back of Ryde Avenue, and a lot of the stuff in here is actually quite good, and maybe we should be suggesting it to our own housing departments, that actually the bins at Ryde Avenue have these aspects of level access and all this stuff. Thank you very much.
Clarification. Anything you wish to add at this stage, George?
So I take on board the comments made by the speakers, and I'll obviously be speaking to the country manager, and I've got to meet with him tomorrow, so I'll be going to what the country's raised today.
Okay. There were some comments made about planning, supplementary planning guidance, etc., technical documents, and we could just adopt the same documents across Warwickshire. I think each individual area can be very different. We are very different to Stratford. We're in our geography and the urban sort of nature of Nuneaton and Bedworth. I think that is perhaps something that would be very difficult to achieve. In actual fact, we want supplementary planning guidance that actually is in the best interest of our residents here in Nuneaton and Bedworth. I take on board, you know, we don't want to reinvent the wheel on every single thing. Of course we don't. And we should work with neighbouring authorities where that is beneficial to do so. But I think there are differences between the districts in Warwickshire. There was a specific question, I'm going to ask Glyn actually, since you're here, Glenn, about indexing the costs of wheelie bins, etc.
Yeah.
Can I ask you whether that is actually included?
Not at the moment, but it's a very valid point, and it's something that obviously needs consideration. Oh, thank you.
So we can take on board that point, and I'm sure that Councillor Shepherd will be ensuring that there's a slight amendment to the policy. It has been moved. Is someone prepared to second the report recommendations? Yeah. Can we make a slight amendment to make sure that it probably would be in 2.1 where we're approving it just to reflect the need to index the costs that we're putting into it. Anything else? You're happy with that slight amendment, Chair?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay. All in favour of that then? Okay, that is agreed. Thank you. Our next item is item 7. Local Council Tax Support Scheme 2021. This report updates Cabinet on the Council's current scheme for local council tax support and presents a range of options for consideration by the public. Section 3 of the report sets out the background to the current scheme, which requires all working age claimants to pay a minimum of 20% of their council tax liability each year. All local authorities were provided with funding at the outset of the scheme in 2013, but this has been subject to government funding reductions since then. Section 4 includes the previous and current caseload and cost of providing the scheme. Section 5 sets out the potential options for revising the scheme, ranging from reducing the minimum amount payable to 15% to keeping the scheme at its current 20%. Table at 5.1 sets out these options and also the cost of each one to the collection fund. There are then a small number of technical changes proposed to the scheme that are at section 5.3. The Council is required to consult with the public and major preceptors, i.e. Warwickshire County Council and the Police and Crime Commission, on any changes to the scheme, and Cabinet are requested to approve that consultation exercise be commenced in September. The recommendations are shown in section 2 of the report. I have 2 speakers on this. Firstly, Councillor Golden.
Thanks. It's pretty brief, really. I just wanted to make sure that we're capturing everybody that we can actually capture with this fund. The reducing the hardship fund to 30,000 would release 30,000 saving to the collection fund. Is there any way we could maybe reduce or change the percentage a teeny bit so the people that are in receipt of assistance are getting a little bit more assistance, because they are probably the ones that need it most out of everybody. So that is basically what I would like to say, is just can we make sure that we are capturing everybody that can be captured, and we are doing the best for those people we possibly can with the funds that we've got available, rather than maybe reducing the overall fund and moving the pot somewhere else. Can we expand the fund to the people that are in receipt of it at the moment, or potentially going down the line?
I think this is actually, Councillor Goldie, the intention of this report is to kick-start the consultation process, and those sorts of comments, if we wish to make them, will be considered. This report will then go to the relevant overview, the scrutiny committee, before it then comes back for formal approval. And I believe it goes to council as well, if I'm reading the report correctly. So there will be plenty of opportunities for people to really input into the process.
That's good.
But thank you for your comments. Any points of clarification, Councillor Goldie? Thank you. Councillor Condaka.
Thank you very much. I'm really pleased we're actually having consultation, and that the consultation will look at different scenarios. I've said for a long while that actually we have a difficulty having a zero minimum, but actually we should actually have a look at different minimums to see if a small change in the scheme can have a big impact on a small number of people. Unfortunately, at the moment, the table here at 5.1 just shows the impact on the scheme's cost, effectively, of the different rates. But one thing I've often said is, if we change the minimum balance, we'll also have a change on what people owe us money, uncollectible debts, liability orders. It's a bigger area. So I think we do need a bit more information to understand how much of that 20% we charge at the moment, how many cases of people not being able to pay, and a bit more outside the silo of just the scheme to see what benefits we get. So, for example, if we drop the payments to minimum payment to 18%, that would actually cost 14,000. I assume that's to the collection fund, so we only pick up part of that until 13%. But also, we might actually, some of that 14,000 cost would actually be money we could never actually collect because the people didn't have the money to pay. So I think we need to look at the whole issue. The other thing you said at the full council of the week was about £80 liability orders costing £100. And obviously, if that's true, and actually reducing the minimum payment reduces the number of liability orders we serve, maybe that saves us £20 a time. So I think we need maybe a bit more of a spreadsheet to explain about those people who already pay 20%, how many actually would be affected by it going down to 16 and 18, and also from that caseload, how many are actually not able to pay or having liability orders, just to see how the whole system works. Because I really do think they are the people we need to be targeting, those that are right on that sort of cusp of not being able to pay even 20% of the council tax. And it looks like a small change going from 18% to 20% to 18. But actually, if you look at what they have to pay, that's reducing what they have to pay by 10%. So if they're struggling to pay £200 or whatever their council tax is, taking £20 off that might actually be quite an important change for them. I'm sure it's too complicated. I hope maybe Simone or someone would actually have a walkthrough of all these figures to actually enable us to do a better consultation.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Now, just my point of clarification, really, you referred to the table at 5.1, and you mentioned some figures that I think we do need to clarify. The saving cost at 18% is 114,080. You actually said, I think, 14,000. And the actual savings difference in charge per week is 27 pence, not 27 pounds, I think.
Well, I was talking, that's the average customer. The end column is for the average customer, whereas I was just talking about the few customers that actually pay the 20%. So obviously for them, if you pay £200,
I'm going to ask Simone to clarify, but I do believe this is the people who are actually paying the pay. And Simone is nodding. So they are the figures of average cost of the people paying. I just point it out. I just wondered if
and I think the other confusion is I was talking about per year, and these figures are per week on the end. So we need to work through the figures properly.
And I thank you for your comments, Tess. Any points of clarification? Thank you, Councillor Conlon. That concludes our public speakers on this. I think some of the comments made actually are really valid comments that will be subject, I'm sure, to appropriate scrutiny when it goes to overview and scrutiny, and you'll be able to ask the questions and get some information on some of the points made. I think it is sometimes confusing when you're trying to read figures quickly, but I think it's important to point out that perhaps there's some confusion. Any further points, members of the Cabinet? Are we all happy to agree this document then, in essence, for consultation purposes?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That is then agreed. We then come on to item 8, which is recommendations from overview and scrutiny. I don't believe we've had any, have we, Wendy? No, none of them in late. Number 9, there are no other urgent businesses. Number 10, exclusion of the public and press, and within the appropriate section of the Local Government Act when we're considering exempt information. Is someone prepared to move that? Okay, is that seconded and agreed? Thank you. Thank you, Claire.
That's it, isn't it?